Good morning, everyone. This is the SABE GoVoter Distance Training Series. Today's date is Tuesday, April 13th, 2021. I'd like to welcome everybody to the third week of our training. Please let's go to the next slide. My name is Teresa Moore, and I'd like to have the rest of my team members introduce themselves. My co-presenter today is
Diana Myers from Cincinnati, SABE board member and co-presenter of the SABE GoVoter project team.
And Essie, would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure. I'm Essie Peterson, and I am the partnership liaison with the SABE GoVoter project. I wish I could see everybody. I'm sorry I'm only been on for the third session, but I do know some of you. Gabe, Roger, few of you there. So I look forward to hearing what you've got to say. Thanks.
Thank you, Essie. And Bill. We can't hear you, Bill.
There we go. I had it on mute. Hello, good morning, guys. My name is Bill Lucero, and I am part of the SABE GoVoter project. I do a lot of the visual designs that you guys see on the PowerPoints and either or the handouts. Yes, good morning, guys.
Thank you, Bill. Juliana.
Hello, everybody. My name is Juliana Guardianship here in sunny Phoenix, Arizona, and doing a lot of the administrative stuff for SABE GoVoter.
And Anthony.
Hey, everybody. I'm Anthony Black. I'm an intern from the University of Alabama Master's Program of Social Work.
And Anthony is helping us out this presentation period to get things ready and have great discussions around different topics. You'll have him present with us today. Thanks to my GoVoter team. Next slide, please.
Hi, let's see who's in the room today. If you could tell us your name and what group you're representing.
And who would you like to go first?
California.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Gabe Taylor. I'm with I'm a voting rights advocate for Disability Rights California. So.
Thank you for joining.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Rihanna Harden. I'm the self-advocacy coordinator for the California State Council on Developmental Disabilities.
Could you say your name again, please?
Rihanna Harden.
Rihanna, okay. It just came across a little broken up, so I wanted to make sure it was clear for the recording. Thank you, Rihanna, and welcome. And who do we have from Missouri?
Hi, my name is Rachel Price. I'm a staff attorney with the Missouri Protection and Advocacy Services Organization.
And I'm Gary Clauser, and I'm from St. Joe People First of St. Joe, Missouri.
And I'm Chris Fagan, St. Joe People First, St. Joe, Missouri.
And I'm Lisa Gabriel, and I'm the advisor for People First of St. Joseph.
Thank you.
And I'm Roger Chrome, and I'm with People First in Missouri, also the SABE representative. So.
Thank you, everybody. Anybody else? Did we miss anybody?
Thank you, everyone. I just wanted to check with is from Missouri. Is it Jerry or Gary? I'm sorry, it didn't come across very clear.
It's Gary, ma'am.
Gary, like G?
Yeah.
Okay. I wanted to make sure I didn't call you the wrong name all afternoon. That wouldn't be very nice.
This is Roger. Can you hear me?
Yes.
I just wanted to offer a suggestion for future presentations that this particular app isn't really great in regard to accessibility. It doesn't tell me, like it tells me I'm on my microphone, but it doesn't tell me if I'm muted or not muted and things like that. So makes it very difficult for when it comes time to interact, or when it's not time to interact, to know that I'm on mute for sure, that kind of thing. And so there are a lot of buttons that aren't labeled. All they say is button. So I don't know if there's another platform that might be better because I'm sure I'm not the only screen reader that does the training. So just thought I'd offer that as a suggestion.
Okay, we'll check that out and work with.
Yeah, I can send recommendations to the program and say this is not working, and we need more identifications for buttons.
Yeah, sometimes I think it's just that they don't know that it's not working, or that they haven't thought of it. So we will definitely put that in our review. We do get a review at the end, so we'll make sure that if it pops up at the end, that you get a review from the GoToWebinar. We can all put down that the buttons didn't work for one of our participants for screen readers. That way they have multiple opportunities to get the message. Plus, Juliana will be making a call because I did not know that. I apologize, Roger.
Okay, well, I appreciate that. I just wanted to make sure because I knew that if I didn't say anything, you wouldn't know it. So, there's just not any way unless you use a screen reader. So.
That's right.
Yeah, I think you are the very first person who's actually brought it up. We have a few people who use the screen readers, and I don't think they've ever mentioned that to us while using that.
Yeah. Okay. So we'll make sure that we check in with them and see what their timeline is for fixing it. But if they don't, we won't stay with them, because we know that there's others that do. Okay, that being taken care of, Juliana, you've got that note?
All right.
Sure, that's resolved.
Bill, you're up.
Yes, so as a reminder, guys, we will be recording today's webinar, so if you guys can listen to that later on and view some of the slides if you guys need to revisit any of those. We will be taking any breaks. If you guys need any breaks, just please let us know in the chat box down below. Again, if you guys have any questions, please say your name and answer those, and we'll be able to ask those questions there as well. Next slide, please. Also, we will be asking poll questions during this webinar, so you guys will be seeing those prop up throughout this webinar. We will be asking survey. Can you go back? Oh, there you go. Okay, yeah, we'll be asking survey questions at the end of the webinar as well. So you guys will be getting that later on. We will have a parking lot as well if you guys have any questions not related to this topic, and then we can discuss it then.
Next slide, please.
What did we learn? A quick review about webinar 1. We learned about how state teams work together, and where to find the GoVoter toolkit. Working together, self-advocates and PNAs makes the presentation stronger.
Next slide.
Week 1 homework. Get to know your state's voting rules. We learned how many days before you vote do you have to be registered. We learned how you can vote in your state. We also learned what do you have to show approval to vote. Some options are IDs you must take to the voting place. State, military, Bureau of Indian Affairs, or a utility bill.
So what did you learn about your state? Go back, Juliana. We're going to practice being on the prompter to talk, just so we can practice. In California, how many days before the election do you need to be registered? Okay. If you're speaking, Gabe, I can't hear you. Did we lose Gabe, Juliana? Did we lose Gabe, Juliana?
No, he's still there. So Teresa's asking if California can answer some of the questions here.
Maybe we had to step away.
Anybody
Oh,
else?
sorry. Were you asking the questions of us?
Yeah, I just
Okay.
wanted to just so that people would have that under their belt a little bit more about what information you learned about the state. So
Gotcha.
how many days before election do you guys have to be registered in California?
So it's 15 days prior to election day that you have to be registered. There is something, though, recent legislation that was passed called same-day conditional voter registration. So a voter can come in, a person can come in on the election day and actually register to vote and cast a ballot on the same day, but it's considered a provisional ballot until the registration has been processed. But once it has, then their ballot will be counted. But typically, it's been 15 days prior to election day. And then in terms of voting options, you can either go in person at a polling place or vote center, or you can do vote by mail, or you can, another option is something called remote accessible vote by mail, where you are able to get sent a link to your home computer through an email and open up an accessible ballot on your computer and make selections through your computer using any assistive devices on your home computer, and then you print it out, and then you can either mail it back to the elections office or drop it off in person. And then The last option is something called curbside voting, where you can go up to any polling place or vote center in your county, and someone is able to bring a ballot out to you from your car. So that's convenient for folks who want to sort of be a part of the process, but may have a little bit of extra difficulty getting in and out of their car. So it just makes it very easy. And then the last question, in California, you're not required to show any form of identification to the poll workers or the vote center staff. There is only one instance where you would have to show any kind of ID, and that is if you are voting for the very first time in a federal election. But even in those situations, it doesn't happen all the time. That is the only time that you might have to show some sort of identification. But otherwise, you are not required to show any form of ID.
Day voting, you said, is still in legislation.
I'm sorry?
Did you say the same day ballot in legislation?
No, so same-day conditional voter registration is available in all counties to all voters. But it's just a way for somebody to register to vote and then be able to cast their ballot on the same day. But it is a provisional ballot, and but we always sort of let people know that their ballot will be counted. It's just a matter of making sure their voter registration gets processed first. And once that happens, then their ballot will be counted.
Okay. Why would I spend so much time doing this, having you guys go over this? Well, it's to help you remember all the different things that you need to know about it. Plus, when we listen to it from other states, we might want to do something creative like that in our state. We don't have that in my state of Arizona. So when I hear what other states are doing, I go, hey, why aren't we doing that? And that's a lot of different ways for people to vote, which is incredible. Okay? And let's go ahead, Diana.
Teresa, excuse me, it's Essie. Can I ask a question?
Sure.
Gabe, you talked briefly about curbside voting, and I'm interested in both California and Missouri as to how that went, whether you had more voters using curbside or if you don't have curbside voting or whatever. I'm just, as I'm working on the GoVoter survey report, curbside voting has increased, but I'm not sure exactly who is using it. But so, Gabe, has curbside voting increased for California?
Somewhat. I think it is increased somewhat, mostly because education about it and outreach to inform voters that it is an option. We've been doing a lot of work around that and just making sure that people are aware of it as an additional option that they can use. The one challenge that we've been sort of coming up against is making sure that counties are providing signage outside their polling places and vote centers, proper signage to let people know how this option works, and making sure that the counties have staff available to assist voters who want to use this option. Because there have been some situations in some of the counties where there hasn't been signage, or some counties that offer provide people an electronic doorbell to use to notify staff inside the polling place or vote center. And those little doorbells, sometimes they don't work. And so we've had to do a lot of sort of follow up with counties to make sure they're putting everything in place for people to be able to use that option effectively. So it's, you know, it's a little bit of an added challenge, but for the most part, counties have been fairly good at making sure that that option is available to all voters if they want to use it.
Sounds like you've done education for the voters to be aware of it and how to use it, and education for the poll workers on letting voters know with the sign, and also for them to understand their role.
Yeah, and there's also, we've done a lot of education to try and help voters be aware of everything that they would need to take with them. Like I always say, if you're going with somebody, make sure that one of you has a cell phone, because a lot of the counties will post a phone number that if you want to use this option, please call, and then they'll list a phone number. So I always recommend people to have access to a cell phone, whether it's a family member or a friend's cell phone or their own cell phone, just to make sure they bring that with them. So, but yeah, it's a lot of it is just, here are the options. Here's what this option may look like. It may be a little bit different depending on where you live, and here's what you'll need to take with you. So,
Thanks, Gabe.
yeah.
What about in Missouri? Does Missouri have curbside voting?
I would refer that to Rachel and Roger.
Can you hear me? Okay.
Yes.
Okay. I was going to say, I have to refer to Rachel in regard to maybe what they've seen across the state. I don't know what numbers wise, increase wise, as far as curbside voting across the state. I will say that in my local community, one of the things that we noticed when we went to vote is that the signage to let people know that curbside voting was available was inside, like behind the people that you sign in at. Doesn't make any sense, but yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, there's a lot of education around that apparently needs to happen. But I mean, that's just another education piece that needs to occur, of course. There's, you know, not understanding the voting machines. At least in my polling place, now they finally understand that there's a machine and people can use it. But up till a few years ago, they didn't even realize that there was a machine. It was set in the box. So, yeah. So, but anyway, I can just speak for what's in my area. We haven't had a whole lot of discussion at the steering committee level, which is our statewide organization, talking about experiences with the curbside voting. So I'm not real sure, but Rachel, with her interaction with PNA, they have a lot of advocacy levels that they deal with in regard to voting. So she may have more information.
Thanks, Roger.
Yeah.
Rachel?
So, yeah. Hi. So I'm just a staff attorney, so I haven't been entirely involved with our organization's many levels of voter advocacy for very long. So unfortunately, I can't actually answer your question to the specifics you probably want. I do know that we have curbside voting. I know how it works, but I'm not really sure if we've had any issues enforcing it or issues with signage. I'm not sure if you've had issues with staffing or not. All of those are possibilities for sure, especially in rural communities. And then to answer the week 1 homework questions, I'm just going to run through these really quickly because a lot of the answers are similar to California's. The first one is not. It's 27 days is usually when you need to be registered to vote. It's usually by the 4th Wednesday before the election, which equals out to 27 days. We do have a lot of the same ways to vote in Missouri, which is absentee by mail or absentee in person. You can mail in your ballot. You can go on election day and either use an accessible machine. You can go curbside, like we talked about a little bit. You can submit a paper ballot. And then as far as what you need to bring, you do have to show some kind of ID in Missouri. So you have to show either your driver's license, voter registration card, a passport, bank statement, a piece of mail with your name and address, like a utility bill or mail from the government. But I think that covers all of the questions on the week 1 homework. Do you have any other questions for me?
Let's go to the next slide and see if there's anything left on there for week 1. Yep. Let's see. What about guardianship? How does it affect voting in Missouri?
Yeah, so guardianship, it's basically an assistance with your life decisions, or it has somebody else in charge of some of your certain individual rights. Voting is one of them. If to be able to know whether or not you can vote while in a guardianship, you need to talk to the probate court or your guardian, or look at the guardianship court documents online. If you have online as an option, or you can go to the probate court and request those documents. Depending on what those documents say, you may or may not be able to vote. If you can vote, great. Then, follow what we covered previously. Bring your ID, figure out your voting plan, whether how you're going to vote, if you're going to show up to your polling place or absentee. If you do not have the right to vote within your guardianship court documents, that's when you would go ahead and talk to your guardian, doctor, or the probate court and see if something can be arranged to restore those rights to you. If it doesn't seem like any of those people are open to working with you, you would probably need to contact an attorney. My organization does take cases like that to restore the rights to vote or drive or work or do those things. One difference that needs to be noted between guardianships and conservatorships, I just want to put that out there. If you are in a conservatorship, it does not mess with your right to vote, so you really only have to worry about a guardianship. And I'll just go down the list. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Rachel. I didn't mean to interrupt you, but I wanted to catch while you were still on the guardianship. I just wanted to add the fact that unfortunately, one of the things, it's been a few years since I've done a lot of advocacy around guardianship, but when I did work for the Independent Living Center, one of the things that I focused on was assisting people with getting their paperwork together to file for restoration of rights. And it appeared to me that, and it, may have just been my own appearance, but it appeared to me that judges, although there's supposed to be a consideration of what levels of guardianship to assign, it appears that the judges go by default to full guardianship, where there are pretty much absolutely no rights. Even if there's a medical concern, then they still take and do all of the right suppression. So anyway, that was just my 2 cents. I just wanted to add while you were on the guardianship. I'll let you continue. You're doing a wonderful job. So.
Well, thanks. And I really appreciate you bringing that point up. That actually ties into not only the next question, but an issue that is prevalent throughout Missouri. Is Missouri does have supported decision making, which is a lesser strict kind of version where the individual keeps most of their rights, if not all of their rights, but they have a group of people that helps them make decisions, supported decision making. It is not utilized enough in Missouri. And kind of like what you were saying, judges tend to skew towards full guardianship instead of these less restrictive options. We see that more often than I am definitely comfortable with, more often than most people I think would be comfortable with if they were aware that it is a problem. So to answer the next question, Missouri does have supported decision making, but it is not utilized nearly enough that it needs to be. So I'm really glad you brought that point up. And then the final question, what does Missouri say, if you're a convicted felon? Basically, if you're still, serving your time, you're on probation, you cannot register to vote. You cannot vote. If you're off paper or if you are not on probation or parole, then you can register to vote.
So as soon as you serve your time and do everything, you are able to vote?
Right. Yeah, you can register to vote as long as you are not on probation or parole.
Okay. Just wanted to make sure I heard that right. I know there's a lot of work being done in this issue too. And then one of the things that we want to remind everybody is when we do our surveys, this is why we do the surveys and why we spend so much time talking about these issues, is because if your state participates in collection of surveys, as you know, it really helps you go to your state election board and talk about these issues, and other places, your Center for Disability Law can help. But that's why self-advocates need to know that people are still having trouble, even though there's these new things. Sometimes it takes a while to get the word around, and self-advocates have the best opportunity in their meetings. And that's why we want you to know that some people don't have the latest information, and that's why it's so good that we're all working together. And SABE will help you in any way we can. Diana?
Let's hear from California.
California, what does your state say about guardianship and voting?
So with guardianship, they equate it to conservatorship. So there was a lot of issues and a lot of problems several years ago, excuse me, with judges taking people's rights away, voting rights away, who were under a conservatorship, who were conserved. They were taking their right to vote away automatically before doing an evaluation of whether or not they understood what it means to vote, and also were able to communicate a desire to vote. So there was a state bill passed called State Bill 589 that required the judges to do a thorough evaluation and an assessment of an individual's understanding of voting and what voting was, and then also to do an assessment of whether or not that individual communicated and was able to communicate a desire to vote. So now folks who are under a conservatorship go through that process. And if the individual is able to communicate those two things and shows a willingness and a desire and a want to be able to vote, then they should be eligible. And Disability Rights California, we assist people who have had their right to vote taken away because there is a process, even for a person who has had their right to vote taken away. There's a process that they can go through to petition the court to have their right to vote possibly reinstated. So we assist individuals who are wanting to look into that with any letters, and we meet with the individual and their family members if they are living at home or working with their conservator to make sure that this is something that everybody wants if the individual wants this, because a lot of times people are really their family members and possibly their conservators are really interested in having their loved ones' right to vote possibly reinstated, but we have to make sure that this is the desire of the individual too. So we go through and oftentimes we'll meet with everyone and talk with them and just get a sense of the individual's right and what it is that they're wanting. And then in the state of California, there is supported decision making. So California state law allows for a person to have help and kind of work with up to 2 people to help them either look through their ballot or get assistance with their ballot. You can also get assistance, sort of going through any of the voting information. That is totally allowed by California law. So, and there are a few limitations to getting that assistance, but for the most part, people can get assistance from multiple individuals. So, and then in the state of California, you can't be in prison or on parole for a felony. That will disqualify you from being eligible to vote.
But if you serve your time and you're not on parole?
Yeah, if you've served your time and your parole, your term of parole has completed, then you can get your right to vote back.
And I just have one more question, Gabe.
Yes.
Does the typical citizen have to go through an evaluation to tell us whether they are eligible to vote in California?
Yeah, well, yeah, I mean, there are definitely voting requirements. You have to be 18 years of age or older. You have to be a U.S. citizen. You have to not be in prison or on parole for a felony. And then the last one is you can't be under a conservatorship where your right to vote has been taken away. But then, as I explained, there are ways to have that right possibly reinstated at a later point.
Yeah. But the typical citizen doesn't, they just sign up and say, I want to vote, right?
Yeah,
They don't go during a meeting.
they can do that. And there are, I mean, as there are with every other state, there are things that voters have to do to make sure they're updating their voter registration if, their living situation has changed or their party affiliation has changed. So as part of our education and outreach, we sort of explain all of those different exceptions and make sure that people are aware of the specific situations where they may have to update something with their voter registration.
Have you gotten to go to court with anyone yet to get their rights restored?
We've worked with several people who we haven't gone to court yet to get their right to vote reevaluated, but we've worked with several individuals whose family members contacted us to say, hey, we really want to do whatever it is we can to have our son or daughter's right to vote reevaluated. What do we need to do? And we've actually gone, I met with one of our other staff attorneys. I went to the individual's home and met with him, met with his parents, who were his conservators, to just talk with them, have this conversation about voting, and sort of see what his thoughts and feelings were on it, and just to sort of get a better understanding of where he was and what he wanted to do. And so with that particular individual, we didn't end up moving forward because it was a little bit unclear as to whether, after we met with him and talked with his parents, it was a little bit unclear whether it seemed more like this was his parents' wishes rather than his wishes. And so, and our goal is to advocate for the person rather than their family. So we didn't want to go forward if this wasn't really something that he wanted. So and it was kind of clear that this, after meeting with him, that it was more what this was a wish that his parents had, which was really cool, that they wanted this for him, but we have to advocate for the individual. So
I wonder if he gets older, if he'll change his mind. Maybe he'll get back to you. I don't know.
Yeah, we always work towards that, and we always are very upfront to say, hey, we're here if anything changes, or if 6 months from now he mentions something about being really interested in the debates, or interested in getting more involved with voting. And if he starts sort of sharing those thoughts and ideas at some point in the future, we're always here. So
That's great. Why don't we go to the next slide, please? Juliana, I think this one is yours. Where is it? She frozen?
Oops. All right. For week 2 homework, we had asked you to see if your state has a primary or a caucus. And let's hear from each of you if you have that currently or in the past have a primary or caucus. Let's hear from California.
So we do currently have a primary, and so there are in terms of examples of why a ballot would not be counted. Sometimes, although it doesn't happen often, if a voter completes a vote by mail ballot and sends that in, and then decides, you know what, on election day, I really want to go in person to vote. And they go in and they try and check in. If the ballot has been counted, been already received by their county, then they wouldn't, then there would be record that they'd already submitted a ballot, and it wouldn't be so that would prevent them from going to vote again in person. And then if say it hadn't been received yet, then the voter could go in and they would have to vote provisionally, because the system would say that it would that they are a vote by mail voter. And so by California state law, if a vote by mail voter goes to vote in person, they have to surrender their ballot. But if they do not have their ballot with them, they would have to vote provisionally, and then they would, the system would obviously see that there are 2 ballots that are received. So they would follow up with the voter after the election to verify which ballot is there, which ballot do they want to have counted, and make sure that they only are submitting 1 ballot. So that was a very complicated example. I'm sorry, but
That's California.
yeah, yes, we've got many of those.
All right, let's hear from Missouri about if you have a primary or caucus, and then you can share some examples of why a ballot wouldn't count in your state.
We currently have a primary also in Missouri. This is Chris. And there are some examples why a person in person ballot filled out incorrectly, wrong polling place, does not have appropriate ID or provisional ballot, high percentage is not counted. Or mail-in voting, not notarized, not postmarked by a deadline, ballot completed incorrectly or missing information, and not proper documentation. Absentee does not provide reason for voting absentee. It won't be counted either.
So it sounds like you have a variety of choices and lots of ways that ballots aren't able to be counted in Missouri. Wow.
Yep.
I saw that Lisa had her hand raised earlier. Did we answer any questions you may have, Lisa, or?
I just raised it for Chris so he can talk.
Okay. Good work. Those teams, good job.
Very informative.
Yes, yes, yeah, lots of what happens in different states. Yeah. Are we ready to move on?
Go ahead.
And so we did some research here, and we found out that there's several states that had done their caucus in the 2020 elections, and the states include Iowa, Maine, Kansas, Kentucky, and they only did it for the Democrat Party, and Nevada, North Dakota, and Wyoming. And on the left side, we talked about the Super Tuesdays and New Hampshire. That's the way they did theirs. Good information. Do you think all states would want to do caucuses or primary, everybody? Which is the better?
There's lots of rules that go with each thing, so I think it would be a tough call. I'd have to really think about it and see what works best for their.
Like Rihanna had her hand up. Your thoughts, Rihanna?
I don't have any experiences in caucuses. I've lived in California my whole life, but from what I understand, it seems like I would prefer a primary system myself. It just seems like caucuses tend to be less, they take a lot longer, and because of the time commitment, and I think by nature the system is less accessible, and because of the time commitment, less people tend to participate in caucuses. But that's, again, an outsider's perspective on what I'm seeing or have seen throughout my life on caucuses.
Yes.
Answer.
Or anybody else?
Time consuming.
Yeah, I agree with Rihanna. It seems like I I remember a couple of stories I heard during some of the primary caucuses last year and then in years past, that because a lot of the caucus sites, some of them are held in people's private homes, that it makes it tricky in terms of accessibility for folks to be able to get in and out of those locations, and then making sure that they have any sort of accommodations is also an issue too. So just in terms of overall accessibility, and it's, finding those accessible locations where, if you are a voter with a disability, where you feel comfortable going to those locations, too, is another issue. So.
Diana?
I just want to add real quick that it's sometimes really difficult. I will go for a primary, but it's that sometimes voting for a primary can be more difficult because with the issues that they have on board and who is running for what position and how the information is come across like where you can vote on a primary or a caucus.
So basically, the caucus is just a small group of people from a party deciding the issues and the candidates that they want to run in their state. Whereas a primary, it's more general and more people get to participate.
Yeah. I would do the primary.
Good ideas, thoughts, everybody. Let's move on to the next one. Teresa?
So today we're going to continue to learn to organize and teach the toolkit. We're going to talk about why it's important that you complete your plan and collect your training evaluations and report and invoice to make sure that you're doing that for us, Missouri, because we want to make sure that the self-advocacy group gets the funding that they have worked so hard for after the training. The types of technical assistance that we will be able to provide you, but all states, whether they're repeating or new, we want to make sure that you know that we're always here for you and we'll do our best to try to help you out. And we're going to talk about all the different things that we can do to assist you. Next slide, please. So you guys made it through part of 6, I believe, learning about the candidate.
Yes.
Yes.
So Juliana's going to pull that up for us. It'll just take a moment and we'll get going on that. It's really important that you understand all of the things that we've talked about so far, and let's continue to talk about ways to learn about candidates and issues.
Okay.
So I know we started up the introduction, and if we want to do a quick recap of what topic 6, the first part, was about, Diana.
Show her the next slide.
Do you see the next slide?
Oh, sorry. Looking on the wrong side. Ways to learn about candidates and issues. I want to say that we have an activity that we would like to introduce for you to teach others. So, how do you know which candidate to vote for? We are going to role play 3 different candidates who have come to speak with your group. These are not real candidates, they're members of your group who are pretending to be candidates. Once we meet each of the candidates, they will talk about who you would vote for and why you would vote for them. And then you would ask, can 3 volunteer candidates please come up to the front? We will have.
This is when it's live.
Yes,
is what
I'm
he's
sorry.
referring
I should
to.
have said that. I'm sorry.
No worries. That's why we're here together.
This is live. Pretend you're doing it. Pretend the lights are on you. You will give 3 members who agree to help with the role playing in the character cards and props.
Yeah.
You
So
will
Teresa's going to talk about activity number 1, and then
Oh,
Diana's going to talk about
okay.
activity number 2. So,
Okay.
so this one is number 1, Teresa, if you want to.
Okay, so for this activity, believe it or not, we figured out a way you could do it online as well. And Roger was one of our role play characters. He was Leo the Legislator. Leo the Legislator, I'm going to start with, so Roger can talk after me if he's okay with that. And Leo is the long-term candidate. Usually you can see these candidates, if you think about the candidates who've run in the past, you can kind of figure out who Leo is. What is distinctive about Leo? Did you learn, Roger? Are you there, Roger?
Yeah, can you hear me now?
Yes.
All right, awesome. Well, I think it was interesting playing the part of the person that just had nothing to say but just things about himself. That was an interesting part to play in the fact of trying to figure out how to say nothing at all over the course of a few seconds. To me, it was kind of neat just to take and play that part because I think I see an awful lot of that in a lot of the legislators that we deal with. So although it was interesting, I don't think that it was a really hard part to play just because that's what we see.
We see that a lot, and that is
Yeah.
Leo the Legislator is the guy who's been around for a really long time, and he'll say, I've dedicated my life to serving the public, and I've been in the legislature for 20 years or something like that. And, I've served in these different capacities, but he never really ever gets around to talking about the issues or what he really stands for. He just wants you to vote for him because he's been around. And then we have Carrie, the community person, or Carl, and they represent the individual that has been invited to the self-advocacy group or the community meeting at the Independent Living Center, however you want to play it, and they know what your issues are, and they're going to fight for them. They're going to fight for your right to vote. They're going to fight for your right for transportation, and any other community issues that is actively going on right now. And then Sally or Sam Socialite. This is my personal favorite to play because Sally is not really a person who is there to talk about the issues either. She's mostly there for a photo opportunity, and we've seen this before too, where they'll make sure that they get a picture with the individuals with disabilities or the people of color who represent a community or something like that. And they really don't take the opportunity on camera to tell people what they stand for, even though they may or may not be very good people. They've gotten into these roles by just the way people accept them. And so it is a very good role play, especially if when you come in and you ask who here has voted before, and half of your audience has not for a while, or they say I only vote sometimes, or I never know who to vote for. They don't really seem that different from each other. Well, when you give them this role play, they are very distinct little things that you can pick up on. And we ask them questions at the end of the role play, the moderator does, and ask them why they would vote for somebody. Some people always vote for Leo, the legislator, because he's experienced. Some people vote for Carrie or Carl Community because they recognize that the issues that they're talking about are really important to them. And some people vote for Sally just because she's the most friendly person they've ever met, and that they took a picture with her and she, was really kind, but really didn't really have anything to say. So every one of us are guilty of voting for these different folks based on how we interpret them and see them on camera or hear them speak, or any of these things could sway you to vote for people. So it's a really great activity for people to pick up on some of the differences of the candidates. And these are the questions. Who would you vote for? Why did you vote for them? And what would change your mind about voting for them? And our secret notes that you get as a participant in your facilitator guide is things like, would it make a difference if the candidate was found in an adulterous relationship where they had cheated on their spouse or not? Some people say that that's their private life, it doesn't matter. Some people say that definitely matters to me, that's something I would not stand for, so there's no way I'm voting for them. Some people, you might find out later that they may have been accused or found to be doing risky behavior of possible theft of some kind of money that they were responsible for, like they were raising money or something for a group and some of the money was found missing. Would that change your mind about voting for them? So yes, definitely. For some people, that's definite. And others, they'd say, well, there was only an accusation. I'm not sure I believe it or not. Even if they were accused and convicted and did some kind of community service time for it, I think they've served their time for it, and I'm going to vote for them anyway because I like them. So all of the voting has to do with how you feel about people and how you think they answer the questions about where they stand on the issue. So you have moral values and your beliefs play into why you choose a candidate. Next slide, please.
So I think now this is Diana's activity number 2.
Activity number 2. Possible questions to ask about disability issues.
So Diana, can you let me know how you set it up at your training? This one, and then do.
In the training that I did in Ohio, we decided to use the different candidates that we just talked about, and we had issues that were very important to us, and we had people write speeches and ideas while portraying a candidate. Some of the possible questions we used were, should people working in workshop settings be paid a minimum wage? And in some states, it's a very hot topic, like my friend Sherry Cooper would say. And sometimes we have to change how the workshops can be. In Ohio and Cincinnati, we privatized our workshops so we could pay the people that work there more money and not lose the benefits. Another topic is how voting can be more accessible for people with disabilities. And we talked about having the ability to vote at home. If you really want to vote at the polls, to have access and to find the accessible entrance in the polling machine, or having somebody help you that is allowed to help you vote. Recently I spoke up to my board of elections about curbside voting because I didn't see any information at the board of elections, and they're going to update their one-page fact sheet about it. And sometimes you just need to ask questions, especially during the pandemic. How are we going to make voting accessible? And I can name 2 ways that we worked on. One was we had to change some voting location places, which went fairly well. And the second thing was at our board of elections, we had empty office space right across the way from the board of elections, and they opened that up as well, so more people can vote and be more spread out, and it won't. And we also had people dropping off the polling the ballot in the box and voting in the car as well. And the line was all across the parking lot, very accommodating. And one part was they had news talking about it almost daily. And they gave a lady a chair to sit on and move the chair when she had to walk, so she would be more comfortable. So I think sometimes we don't get the good of a pandemic, but the voting and accessibility really went very well. These are just some topics that are very dear to people, very dear and understanding for people with disabilities. And I understand that everybody votes, but if you can help a person vote and learn why they are voting, like picking different topics or using these 2, it's a great learning experience. I think that's all for that slide. I also want there's also some federal questions about disability issues, such as the marriage penalty, and if you receive SSI benefits. We talked about what are your thoughts about the marriage penalty against people with disabilities. If you receive SSI benefits in your cuts, it cuts in your benefits if you get married. I want to express that this topic is very dear to my heart, not just for me, but for my friends and for all people who have relationships and want to have relationships. I also want to say that this issue is not really known to the public. I have talked to many of my friends who don't have disabilities or not really into the disability funding world, I call it, but they don't know about the marriage penalty. So when you have a debate, it's really important to know your facts, tell stories, and review yourself or not. And if it doesn't really affect you as a person in your life, go ahead and tell somebody else's story, but have them there. That'd be an interesting role play to do. Another one was supporting Medicaid waiver funds and purchasing assistive technology. And technology is not just computers, iPhones, but it's also for your home, for safety purposes. And that is something that we are connecting, having the right technology. But if you don't have the money and if you don't have the support, I mean, you can buy an iPad but not know how to use it. You need money and you need support to use assistive technology and to have the understanding on how that works and how Medicaid can help you or your local developmental disability services can help you. You might not even know that you're supporting such a great issue and how it can not just affect you as a person, but somebody who is elderly or has family that's away. So these are ideas that you can work with, these questions and issues. And then you ask the participants which candidate they agreed on with that answer. And the person who has the most questions answered the way the participants like is a winner.
Thank you, Diana.
You're welcome.
So then we're gonna go ahead and do a poll question. So Anthony, are you there? Are we ready to lead that? Might just step away. Bill, you want to go ahead and lead this one? The poll question. So the question is, have you ever attended a party?
An election results party.
Mm-hmm. Right, I'm gonna go ahead and close it. Diana, you want to read the results?
Sure. Yes, 33% attended an elections results party, and no for 67%. Thank you, everybody, for voting and having your feedback.
Yeah, it's interesting to hear that some people have attended. And those could be like a day-long party, right? Right, Teresa?
It can take a while for those results to come in, but it's a pretty exciting environment. If you ever get the chance to go, it's something different that you can do. Yes, Diana.
I spoke at one, and I also went to several levy election results parties, and I co-hosted one at my favorite local restaurant.
Nice. Thank you. All of the things that Diana gave an example of, and what you guys have answered is one of the ways that you can get involved in the election process is that's called Civic Engagement. We're going to talk a little bit more about that later. Next slide, please.
Do we want to take a 5-minute break, Teresa?
Would everybody like to do that? In Missouri? 5-10 minute break?
Yeah.
Juliana, give us time, Juliana, so because I'm not good at that, adjusting my brain. What time would it be for them to come back?
44 minutes after the hour.
44 minutes after the hour. Okay. Everybody put their computers on mute because we can hear you if you leave it on. We want you to have some private time so you can refresh. We'll be back on at 44 minutes after the hour. Thank you. We'll be starting I'll talk about how do you vote. What a pretty house you have, Diana. I like your house.
Teresa, this is Gabe. I have to step away for a few minutes, but I will be back probably in like 5 or 10 minutes. So,
Okay,
okay.
no problem.
Hey, can you hear me?
Yes.
My modem just completely like went off rocker.
Oh, no.
Yeah, struggling over here. Had the same problem last night.
Yeah, I was definitely having problems with mine. The battery won't charge anymore, so every time I wanted to move, I had to unplug it.
They're
And
installing, I'm sorry, go ahead.
what were you gonna say?
They're installing the new fiber optic internet lines. And so I think they're messing everybody else up while they're doing it.
Oh,
Yeah.
very possible. I'm not one of those people that can give up my technology very easily. Once I learn it, I have a hard time learning new things, because when I go to sleep at night, I'm kind of like that 51st date person where you wake up and your knowledge is not there anymore, unless it's old knowledge. So sometimes when I look at my computer, I see my other one and I don't see the start button, and I have to think about where the start button is, because it's not where it was when I had my incident. So it messes with me.
I bet.
I hate change so badly, because it's like, so I have to leave notes all over the place for myself.
And then like some of the software just does like automatic updates and you have to relearn the whole program.
Yeah, it's kind of like resets. My brain resets every day. I'm thrown back to 2009.
Oh, wow.
Are we not ready?
See my message? Gabe stepped away for a moment, but he'll be back.
Yes.
Okay. How is everybody doing in Missouri? Is everybody back? I'm not sure how many locations. Rihanna in California.
This is Rachel Price with Missouri. I'm here, but I'm not sure how to access a list of all of the people who are in the webinar, so I can't really tell you about anybody else.
Okay, thank you, Rachel. Roger, are you back?
Yeah, I'm back.
Okay, thank you. Chris and Gary and Lisa?
We're back.
Great, thank you. And then we have Rihanna in California.
Yeah, I'm back.
Thank you. And Gabe will be with us momentarily. Rihanna, start us up again.
All right. So go ahead and talk a little bit about ways that people can vote. And I know that we've talked a little bit about it earlier in last week's presentation. But I think this would be like the best opportunity to talk about how to incorporate accessible voting machines in your training. One of the things that we found helpful was to connect with your election departments, officials in your state ahead of time, like months ahead of time. And depends on which part of the state that you do the presentation and the access of voting machines. Might be wise to get different types of voting machines if your state has different ones, and spend some time at the end of your trainings to have these available for people to test out and see if they have any questions when they're using it. The election officials most likely will have extra staff there to help out with that, and it just makes it a good experience for people to understand how the voting machines work, and that way when they do go vote in person and they want to use that voting machine, they know how to use it.
Very good. And we found that people are much more comfortable when they officially go to vote. They get really excited when they recognize that machine, and it makes the process for them go so much more quickly. It also helps them help the voting volunteers, the poll workers, to sometimes the self-advocates have told us that, like Roger had said, they weren't set up, and so the self-advocates who've gone through our training have helped the staff set the machines up and explained that you need to get a number for this one. It has a voting card that you need to insert with a number on it. That's my number, and it's been real helpful for the self-advocates to know exactly which machine it is that they're going to be working with. It's really made a difference in a lot of people's lives by going to the training and getting to see the machines ahead of time. Even just a 10 or 15-minute demo where they've tried things out and saw how to enlarge the text or change it to where the screen goes black if they don't need that, and make it a private vote and use the headset to do their voting as a person who doesn't see, and to find out that maybe people could see over your shoulder. The ability to say, is my screen black now so that my vote is private? And people are like, what do you mean? I don't want people to be able to see over my shoulder what I'm doing as a voter, and making that private, or making sure the angle is correct so that voters cannot see. So in the polling place, so really powerful messages have come back from the people that have trained using the voting machines. Go ahead, Juliana.
So either California, Missouri, do you see setting up of accessible voting machines at your trainings? If you're doing the virtual ones, how would you connect them to using the accessible voting machines to practice on?
Tricky question. If you are having an online training, what's a way that people could see the voting machines or learn about them?
Like
Maybe a picture of it and like a diagram to show the different parts and where things are.
Mm-hmm.
Very good idea.
That's what I would say.
I would check with your Secretary of State's office to see if they have demonstration videos of those machines.
Absolutely. And some of this information is online. So you could get it, but I would recommend that you work with your elections board, like you said, because the quality is going to be more accurate. You're going to make sure that whatever county you're in or district or parish you're in, you have the correct machine, because what's online might not be the correct one. So you want to make sure. States have a tendency sometimes to get as many as 4 different machines when they purchase, because they try to get a variety of machines, because not every machine does everything. So they'll try out different ones in different counties. So just check on that before you do that, and make sure you work with them. They're the ones in the know.
And Teresa, that the other thing that doesn't happen often, but we've actually been able to work with some counties to do like a video demonstration, but have it be a live video demonstration as we're having a discussion, and they do a walkthrough of what it like the steps of using the voting machine, and they talk about some of the accessibility features on the machine. So that's if you work with some counties that are able to do something like that, that's a really cool alternative if folks can't do an in-person one.
Yeah. But boy, if you get that chance to do that in-person training, it does make a huge difference. Video really helps though when there's no other option. And of course, like you said, those diagrams of the machines too, because they do, the designers of the machine usually have really cool posters and things about their machines. But it also is a good place to ask questions about sip and puff, which is a kind of tubing that is used by individuals who experience paralysis. They might use a sip and puff mechanism to help them. And some machines do not have that, or they may require that you bring your own sip and puff tubing. I think it is. I may have the wrong word, but I hope you get the idea. Also, some states we have heard require that if you are a person who needs a headset to listen to the options, that you need to bring your own headset too, that they do not supply that. Some states do, some states don't. Always be a good investigator. That's what we call it when we're doing our learning about all this stuff. Is we're private investigators investigating the way voting works in your state, and it makes it a lot more fun if you are asking questions for your friends too. Go ahead, Juliana, move us on.
Yeah, good ideas. And then I know we talked a little bit about the locations of polling places, and further on in the next topic chapters, we can talk more about how how the disability community can work with election officials and helping out with making sure that polling places are accessible. But I know that that's a big talk going on currently, is making sure that the polling places that are being chosen are keeping people with disabilities in mind. So if you can participate in your state and help out, that might make a big difference for somebody who may struggle with the polling locations. I know we talked a little bit about all the possible polling locations. We took our little break earlier. I hope that helped out. And then now we're going to talk about the next topic, and that's about getting around voting problems. So let me pull that PowerPoint up. So again, just if you're going to do it in person, have all the information you need. Big papers. Sometimes you can do this activity in small groups, or you can do it together. Online, you probably have to do a question and get responses from the group, and then have a discussion about possible ways in your state to get around some of these problems.
You could even make these into poll questions so that you give multiple choice answers and make more than one answer. You can make more than one answer good if you wanted. And we have had several states that did do virtual training, and it worked out really well, just to try to keep your trainings interactive. And so Juliana, just show a couple of the examples so they can get an idea of how this works.
All right, so I think, Anthony, we have another poll question that we can ask the group.
Mine is cut off, Juliana.
Yeah, I'm not able to see it. Have you had, excuse me, have you had problems at the poll location?
This is for you guys to answer. As voters, have you had any problems at the polling location?
I'm closing it.
So 40% say yes, 60% say no. Based on the survey data, that's pretty consistent with what people answered on the survey as well.
We do know that things have improved in general since we started the GoVoter project. Our feedback has been real helpful to election boards, who, some of them, when we first go in to do the training, they're like, well, we never get any reports back that there's a problem. And then other places we say, yes, we get reports back from our Center for Disability Rights, and we work on those and try to get them worked out before the next election. But if you have the opportunity to share what your experience was, you could make it better for someone else. And that's part of why we do this. Also, if people report these things to the SABE GoVoter project that they had difficulty with, so for those of you who answered that you did have difficulty, you could write one of us on GoVoter and tell us your story, or put it in your, if you filled out a survey, hopefully you put it in the survey what the issue was. And we continue to work on it and make recommendations every year to improve voting. So that's really important.
So question for the group, what are some typical problems that have happened in your state that shouldn't have happened, but you've been able to strategize and make it possible for everyone to vote?
Anybody want to share something now?
One of the big issues that we always have is making sure that, or that we get reports about, is folks who come in and ask to use either the accessible voting machine or the accessibility features on the existing machines. And there are often problems with it not being set up correctly, or sometimes not even plugged in. So we work on a lot of education efforts on making sure that poll workers are doing what they should be doing to set everything up properly.
Yes, that does continue to show itself, and so you just keep working, because remember, those folks are volunteers, so we need them, and so we're going to work with them as best we can to help them out, and whenever possible, we're going to volunteer ourselves and be poll workers, because that's how we see what's really going on behind the scenes. Many of us on the GoVoter team have been poll workers, and some of us register people to vote. You have to have a training to do that in our state. So it's pretty exciting to get to help out whenever you can. And the GoVoter project continues to make those recommendations every year to try to improve, and it is improving.
Lisa had her hand up. Lisa?
Jerry has a question.
How many times a year do they check the machines out? The voting voting machines.
Most of the poll workers that I know say they've never seen it before Election Day, or they've just seen a video with part of it shown, and they didn't see them before that day. But they are supposed to be checked out before the election and make sure that they are in good working order, or that they have the ability to get another one, because it is a requirement that every polling place does have at least one working voting machine for people to use. Did I answer that correctly, team? Anybody have anything else to add for Gary's question?
Yes, yes, and putting me in is part of the job. You know, the people that take care of the machines.
Yeah, they have contracts, I'm sure, with all of the machine makers. Whether the machine makers actually themselves get to look at machines that before every election, I'm sure they try to get to as many as they can, but they're probably mostly relying on people who are working with the machines every day, the poll workers and the election judges, the ones that are more experienced, to check them out and report them in need of repair if they are, and they'll try to fix them that day if they can. They'll probably send somebody. But it's a very hectic day, so Some of them probably do get fixed that day and some of them don't, but hopefully they have more than one machine available that they can bring in and replace with as they're being repaired. So, but most of the time we found that the poll worker just doesn't have the experience working with the machine and they just need some help. And eventually they do get it working and the person gets to vote. So we just all have to remember, we volunteer a lot too, and we want people to be patient with us when we volunteer, so we want to be able to give that back and say thank you for volunteering. I wish I could help you more. And I know that there's a book that has a number that you can call for help somewhere back there, and they can ask another poll worker that's with more experience where that number is to get started.
So in the website, we have the examples activity cards that you can use with your group, or you can.
Can I just, excuse me, Juliana, before you go on, could I say something about the poll worker?
Yes.
What, Teresa, you just said to thank your poll worker. And I've been a poll worker for a number of years. And I have to tell you, the people that say thank you to me for taking the time to be here today, it really makes you feel good. So if you remember to do that, it really does make a difference for the poll worker. Thank you.
Thanks, Effie.
Yeah, that's very important. But we have activity cards and we also have videos that you can share. And Bill, do you want to talk a little bit about that? And making it possible to share those and how to do it?
Yes, so let's see. Sorry, I was sending out something real quick, sending out an edit real quick, sorry. So for the videos, like we were saying last week, you guys will be able to, I think on the website, I gotta look again. But I know that we have the downloaded file, so you guys can be able to take the downloaded videos and just have them on a USB. So if you guys have an area where you guys aren't available that use the internet, you guys would have it there. But I don't think we put that up. Let me look real quick for the videos. Let's see.
But the tip is if they do have internet to just download it right away and have it ready before the presentation, and that way.
Yeah.
But when you're using a platform,
Let's see.
How do we make it better so that it's not downloading and streaming type thing?
Let's see. Well, we had two different ways. So I was looking right now to see if we actually had it on for the downloaded versions. But I don't think we have it. I think I'm the only one that has the downloaded versions. So I might, for the future, we might add those then. So it'll be a lot easier to just have them on a USB. Because it's really hard to, like what we were going to do before, we were going to put it on Google Docs and Dropbox and everything. And I think it was a lot harder for people to actually do that because they are paid services. So they limit on how much memory you guys can use. So throughout the years, they've lowered the level of, what do you call it, memory that you guys can do. So I think that's why we stopped doing it. But I think now that we have a better up-to-date website, we're actually able to put those downloadable links in there. So I know we have a few videos now that are available to download via the website, but I don't think it's the training ones that we've done here yet. But my suggestion is to, for the PowerPoints, is you guys can embed those videos. There's two ways you guys can embed those videos. There's one where if you have the physical download, it'll be able to drag that file into the PowerPoint and it'll just create a box where you see the sometimes things are. So everything will be gone there, but there'll be a black box for the video. There's also, you can do a link, embed link that is on YouTube, where it's a specific link that comes straight from YouTube, and you guys will be able to put it in there, and it'll create a box that will fill out the PowerPoint there. And that's only if you guys have internet there. But like I was saying before, I might add those videos to the website, so you guys will be able to actually physically download those and take them with you guys for your projects. But I think we would probably send out an email letting you guys know when those are actually available to be used.
In that way.
Yeah. Let me see.
All right.
So I think, Bill, what the question is if you're like me and you're not very into technology, you call us and get Bill's direct line, and we send you to Bill.
Yes, exactly. That's, we did
That's
mention
usually what happens to me.
we did
So-
mention it actually a few weeks ago that depending on which PowerPoint you guys have would be the variable of what you're able to do on your PowerPoint. Because I know, I believe like Windows, I think is it Word 2016? That is pretty much the recent one. I forgot to go look it up. If that was a recent one, you should be fine, because there's different formats before 2016 where the PowerPoints were more of a squared than they are now as a wider screen. So they actually added a lot of new tools on the 2016 PowerPoint to actually do a lot of these newer things, and embedding videos a lot easier and quicker than what they were before then.
So if you do not have somebody that does technology, you can ask your PNA. They usually do have some staff that has expertise in that. And if for some reason they do not, you can definitely contact us and we will get you in touch with Bill to help you figure out what PowerPoint you have, what flexibility you have on embedding the videos into your PowerPoint. There are some fantastic videos that we recommend on our pages, but there's also these really cool ones that are older that I think people would enjoy using too. So if you need any help, just let us know and we'll try to get that figured out with you if that technology person is not available, or you do not have a person that has expertise in that. Bill's pretty good at this stuff.
Right, so we'll finish this up, but we won't do all these slides, because these are all the different problems that you would possibly
So
have.
they can see how they're set up, Juliana.
So we have it set up where it says problem, and then you would read what the problem is, and then however you're going to do it, if you're going to have it in small groups or everybody just raise their hand to answer the question, but then just have a discussion about it and see how people can resolve the issues. I think we refer people at the end is to always connect with your PNA if you have any issues or problems during election time. And then that's where the PNA should have that information handy. So if you have a hotline for your state during elections, is to always share that information all the time. All right, so yeah, there's many.
Can I just add something real quick? You know,
Yes.
in the survey, I thought that all of you hopefully did for us. You told us that you used the national hotline more than you used your state hotline. Now, it was real close, but I thought it was interesting that people are using that 800 number. And I can't remember how you remember it. It's not GoVote. It's anyway. There's an 800 number that I'm sure that it is around, but it's interesting that more and more people are going with the 800, and more people are going to their PNA. than 2 years ago.
Yes.
Just a statement.
All right, Anthony, are you ready to do the next poll question?
Where do you get your information about candidates and issues? Please select all that apply.
All right, I'm going to close it now.
And that's, I think that's also consistent with the survey data, right? Mailing ads were really low on the totem pole.
Sorry, Anthony, I had myself muted there. Interesting, mailing ads was higher than I thought it would be. It's higher than the 40% that you guys are suggesting. I don't have right in front of me, but I can have right in front of me in a few minutes exactly what you told us. And I think that this is interesting for you to have. Come on.
Yeah, it's very interesting here. This information that we
Okay. Here we go. It's 43% that do the mail. And for your social media piece, 34%. You guys are pretty advanced there of the total number. And the television is 50%. And friends and coworkers, does that include service staff?
I should have put that in there, but
no. Okay. This is interesting. It is 34%. So you guys are technology savvy as a group. And that kind of takes the place of the mailing ads and stuff that people were saying on the full survey that they used more. So it's kind of a switch up there. Either you are one or you're the other. And family and friends are actually, you know, both pretty high. Interesting. Interesting, guys.
yeah.
Thank you.
All right. We shall move on to the next section. Let me slide it down here. All right, so we're going to start off with getting involved.
And it's set up the same way, right, Juliana, with how you set up the topic, the big papers if you want to have discussion. And this one is the civic engagement that we talked about. We've been giving you some ideas all along for this one. Being a poll worker.
Yeah, we talked a little bit about it. We talked a little bit about it the other day on what we have done. Maybe California members or Missouri members. Have you been a poll worker?
Did we lose
Lisa.
connection?
No, Lisa, go ahead.
Chris has something to say.
I've never been a poll worker, and I don't think I want to be.
One of the really cool things is you get to see things behind the scenes, and you get paid for working that day. It varies a little bit state to state, but it's usually around $100. It is a long day, but it goes pretty quickly if you're involved in a very busy city area. When I was a poll worker, that's what kept me going, is we were in a busy location. I can imagine, though, if it was slow, that I would have a harder time. Some people with disabilities are worried about the long day. It is something to consider.
Can I add to that? I think that about the poll worker, when you become a poll worker, you are not asked to do anything you are uncomfortable with. You need to let them know what your strengths are, where your comfort level is, and they'll put you there. And Diana did it recently. Diana, you want to share how you were set up to be a poll worker? Diana?
Hi. Yes, I was a poll worker recently, and it was a very rewarding experience. It was a long day, a lot of training, a lot of crazy, very early morning and late evening hours. But what I really enjoyed was seeing my friends seeing me being a poll worker. I have some great tips. Bring a cushion for your chair, bring something to drink, bring snacks, ask questions, learn who's in charge of the polling place. What SC said was very accurate. They will give you things that you can do. It is a team effort from people that come in to fix the machine to people to caregivers who help voters to understanding what's going on. Sometimes rules do change. When I was a poll worker, there was a big accident on a bridge. So they expanded the poll location hours. But we closed ours down because we never got the information. So there's things that can happen unexpectedly, or it's really neat to have somebody vote for the first time. My two takeaways is it's very important to have relationships, but to know the people there. If you don't know, ask, and bring plenty of snacks and drinks. You will get breaks. Walk around if you have to. And it was a very great experience. In Ohio, you do not have to be there the whole time now. If you want to walk from 8 a.m. to 12 noon and then you have to walk, you can do that as well. There's different laws and rules that states are doing to make it more accommodating and accessible, and I was really glad I did it.
Thank you, Diane. Juliana, why don't we go on to the next topic, please?
Yes. So I'm glad we were able to talk a little bit about all this, like, already. I'm excited about that. The last topic talks about creating these partnerships with different organizations. How do you get self-advocacy groups and P&As together and involved?
At this topic, I'm just going to summarize it. This topic helps you with building that relationship if it doesn't exist. We recommend that you have a meeting together to learn about each other, just like you did when we started out. And our friend Tia has a message. In order to work together to improve the lives of people with disabilities, professional organizations and self-advocacy groups must have relationships that are based on understanding, respect, and trust. And those things are built over time. So start thinking about how you would like to work together. And if you don't know each other, or you're going to work with a new self-advocacy group or a P&A staff that's new with the project, just take your time and let them get to know you and what wonderful presenters you, the self-advocates are, and bring your personal experiences, talk things through, have good examples, use your toolkit to collect the information, stories, and examples that you want to use during your training, and then put your slides together. You can have notes on your slides. If you've never used PowerPoint before, it has a place for notes. You can either do it there, but it's very small. So you have your, if you are part of the training team, I recommend that you copy the pages that you're going to use for the topics that you are going to do at your training, and put your personal notes and story examples there so that they are ready to go. Because I know I used to, when I first started, get stage fright. So I would have everything written down. What I found was having it written down or telling it to somebody so that they could write it down for me helped me remember it. And that's something you just learn about yourself as you present more and more, to get comfortable with a new topic and to be as encouraging and as positive as possible. Have everything prepared ahead of time. Make sure you have several meetings. But this tool here is a great way to get things started and to learn about each other, learn about what the rules of each other's organizations are, share the work. The P&A is not expected to do everything. The P&A is to support the self-advocates and the things that the self-advocates don't have access to. But if the self-advocates have those resources, make sure you share the work, because that's a partnership. A partnership is not one-sided. Let's go on to the next topic.
So we're going to end with some of the things that you have to have when you're doing the presentation.
Team member. Yes, make sure you plan your transportation. I did forget that one, so make sure transportation is figured out. You can probably work with your P&A or your supporting self-advocacy group if they have their own funds to help you with transportation. You can either have them pay or reimburse them when you get your funding. We do give the self-advocacy groups $500 if they are a new state team. And we recommend 1 PNA staff to 2 self-advocate presenters. That way you have help and support, but you can have other partners there too. We've had DD Council staff, we've had youth ed staff, that community members that are involved in the election process. All kinds of different folks have helped out. Legislators have even helped out and talked about voting. Very exciting if you encourage someone else to come in and help present the topic that you're interested in. And you will have a plan that you must use for that training. It must be at least 2 hours long and have 3 topics or subjects in it. And you must collect evaluations. The evaluation form is on the website for you to copy, or you can use the PNA evaluation if they have one. To us, we just want to make sure that an evaluation is done to make sure that we are always improving the voting experience for people. We do have a final evaluation webinar on September the 14th, and it will be at the same time. This is where you will get to tell us how you used the training to reach out to voters in your state. Some people will choose to do it online for continued pandemic safety. Others will be doing face-to-face. And whichever way you do it, everything's the same. It must be 2 hours. You can't split that, however, because it is hard to be online for a long time. We sure do appreciate it here. But if you find that the audience that you're reaching out to needs that divided, you can divide that training and do it over 2 visits with your audience so that they can absorb more of the information. But at least 2 hours, 3 topics, and more if you want to. And we've already got the letter, so we need the training plan completed, a report completed, a W-9 sent to Juliana, and an invoice for $500 for the new state. Next slide. I know I went very fast. If you have any questions at all, please don't hesitate to give us a call or email us. Everything will be on the website for you to use. If you're having any trouble at all, please contact us and let us know. And the Election Assistance Commission also has great materials for you to hand out if you'd like some of the federal information shared at your training. Do we have any questions? I know I went really fast there at the end. And I can have individual calls with any state with their training team.
Any questions from California?
I'm good unless Rihanna has any questions.
I'm good. Thank you so much.
Thank you. In Missouri?
Not at this time, but I'm sure I'll be contacting you.
And I don't have any questions either.
All right. Thank you, everybody, for attending this session.
Thank you for presenting.
Yeah, thank you for your time.
It was great meeting you all.